The village of Umudike was a place where stories traveled faster than the harmattan wind, where every secret found its way into the mouths of gossiping tongues, and where every child was expected to shine. In this village, one girl stood out, NKEM. NKEM had spent years mastering invisibility, learning to hide what could never be known, never be spoken. But the walls of secrecy were crumbling, and the truth was a cruel thing, it never stayed buried forever. She was brilliant, her mind as sharp as the cutting edge of a newly forged machete, her laughter infectious, her presence a magnet that drew people close. Teachers adored her, classmates envied her, neighbors spoke her name with admiration. But beneath her glowing reputation, NKEM carried a secret that threatened to unravel everything she had built. She was not like other girls her age. When the sun set and the village drifted into sleep, she became a prisoner of her own body, bound by an affliction she could not control. She wet the bed. It did not matter how hard she tried, how many times she promised herself that this night would be different, that she would wake up dry. Morning after morning, shame clung to her skin like the dampness of her soiled sheets. Her parents loved her, protected her, but their concern was a heavy weight she could feel even when no words were spoken. They never allowed her to attend sleepovers, never let her spend a night away from home, always making excuses when other parents invited her children over. "It is not that we do not trust you, my daughter," her mother would say. "We just do not want you to be embarrassed. The world is not kind to secrets once they are exposed." And NKEM understood. She knew the whispers that would follow if anyone ever found out, the mocking laughter, the pitying looks. She had to keep it hidden. At school, she was careful. She carried extra cloth wrappings in her bag, used scented powders to disguise any lingering smell, and timed her trips to the toilet meticulously. But no matter how cautious she was, some classmates noticed. And questions began to rise. "NKEM, why do you always rush to the toilet after every lesson?" a girl named Ifenanya asked one day, her voice dripping with curiosity. NKEM forced a laugh, feigning nonchalance. "My mother says drinking lots of water keeps the skin glowing." It was a weak excuse, but it silenced Ifenanya for the moment. Still, NKEM knew it was only a matter of time before someone pieced the truth together. The real test came when NKEM turned 15. Her parents had always homeschooled her beyond the village's primary school, afraid of boarding school exposing her secret. But they could not shield her forever. An opportunity arrived, a prestigious academy in the city, offering full scholarships to the brightest students. NKEM's father, proud of his daughter's brilliance, encouraged her to apply. "This is your chance, NKEM. You belong among the best." And so, with a mixture of excitement and dread, she wrote the entrance exam. When the results were announced, NKEM had the highest score in the entire region. The village erupted in celebration, people pouring into her family's compound to congratulate them. NKEM the genius, they called her. But inside, NKEM was drowning in fear. She knew what boarding school meant: shared dormitories, sleepless nights worrying about accidents, the ever-present risk of discovery. When the academy sent an invitation for an interview, her parents sat her down, their expression solemn. "NKEM," our mother began, "this school is an incredible opportunity. But it means staying in the hostel, attending night programs, living among other students. Are you ready for that?" Her heart twisted painfully. "Can't I attend as a day student?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Her father shook his head. "The scholarship is for full-time boarding students only. There are no exceptions." Silence fell between them. NKEM's fingers dug into her dress, her breath uneven. Then I can't go." Saying the words out loud felt like a knife to her throat. Her parents exchanged a look of sorrow, but understanding. "It's okay, my daughter. Another opportunity will come." But that night, as NKEM lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, she felt something crack inside her. Why was she cursed with this? Why did something so small, so uncontrollable, hold so much power over her future? The following morning, the village awoke to a different kind of news, not the story of a girl who had earned a place in a prestigious school, but of a girl who had turned it down. And people began to wonder. Why would the brightest mind in Umedike reject such an opportunity? The whispers began, soft at first, then louder. NKEM knew her secret was no longer as safe as she had hoped. For days, the whispers followed NKEM like shadows she could not escape. The villagers, once full of admiration, now spoke of her with confusion, suspicion even. Why would a child turn down such a golden opportunity? They murmured at the marketplace, in the corners of the school compound, under the great baobab tree where the elders gathered. What could she possibly be hiding? Ifunanya, the girl who had always watched her too closely, now seemed even more intrigued. "NKEM," she said one afternoon, her tone laced with something between curiosity and challenge. "Is it true? Did you really reject the scholarship?" NKEM forced a smile, though it felt like her skin was stretched too tightly over her bones. "Yes, I did," she answered simply. "I wasn't ready to leave my family yet." Ifunanya narrowed her eyes. "Or is it because you're hiding something?" The words struck too close to home, and for a brief moment, panic flared in NKEM's chest. But she had spent years perfecting her mask. She laughed. "If I were hiding something, would I tell you?" She turned the question into a joke, making the other students chuckle, effectively steering the conversation away. But deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. At home, her parents tried to comfort her, telling her she had nothing to prove to anyone. "The villagers will forget," her mother assured her. "People always find something new to gossip about." But NKEM wasn't so sure. The village had given her a taste of fame, of being celebrated, and now that she had refused the scholarship, it felt like they were searching for ways to tear her down. And then, the worst happened. It started with a simple accident. One evening, while visiting her cousin Obina, NKEM had been careful as always. She had excused herself to the toilet more times than necessary, making sure nothing went wrong. But that night, sleep took her too quickly. She awoke to the unmistakable dampness beneath her, the horror sinking in even before she fully opened her eyes. Her breath hitched. She sat up, heart pounding, and began fumbling to clean it, to hide it, but it was too late. Obina's younger sister, Ada, had already woken up. And she saw everything. The morning was a blur of whispered exchanges, of Ada's eyes darting away when NKEM tried to plead with her, of the tension in Obina's house as she left. She wanted to believe Ada wouldn't tell anyone. But some secrets were too tempting to keep. By the time she reached school, the rumors had already started spreading. "Did you hear?" someone whispered behind her. "I don't believe it," another said. A horn came. "No, it's a lie." But the laughter, the glances, the sudden way people turned quiet when she walked past, all of it told her the truth. They knew. They all knew. Ifunanya was the first to say it to her face. "So, it's true," she said, arms folded, voice loud enough for those nearby to hear. "The reason you rejected the scholarship. The reason you always run to the toilet." NKEM could barely breathe. "I don't know what you're talking about," she tried, but Ifunanya only smiled, the kind of smile that made NKEM's stomach twist. "Oh, but you do." And just like that, her worst nightmare had come true. The days that followed were an unending cycle of whispered conversations, pointed fingers, and mocking laughter. NKEM had thought she understood humiliation, but she had never known it like this, never felt it cling to her skin like something alive, something suffocating. Everywhere she turned, the weight of her secret now lived in the mouths of those who used it against her. It was no longer a secret. It was a joke passed around in giggles and cruel murmurs. At school, She tried to keep her head high, pretending not to hear the names the students had suddenly gifted her. Waterfall. River girl. Sleeping rain. Some were subtle in their cruelty, masking their words behind sweet, poisonous smiles. Others, like Ifunanya, took pleasure in making sure she could not ignore them. "NKEM, do you need a bucket?" Ifunanya asked one morning, standing at the classroom doorway with her arms crossed. "Or maybe we should put a rubber sheet on your chair. Just in case." Laughter rippled through the room. It was unbearable. But what hurt the most wasn't the laughter. It was the change in the eyes of those who once respected her. The way teachers hesitated before praising her in class now, as if they were afraid to give more fuel to the gossip. The way her closest friends, the ones who once sat beside her every day, had started avoiding her, afraid that being too close to NKEM meant sharing in her shame. At home, her parents noticed the change in her. She ate less. Spoke less. Her once bright, eager demeanor was dulling into something small, invisible, withdrawn. "NKEM, my child," her mother said one evening as they sat outside, the sun setting behind the village trees. "Talk to me." But what was there to say? How could she explain the way the world felt different now? How even stepping outside felt like walking into a storm with no shelter? She only shook her head. "I'm fine, Mama." A lie. A heavy, ugly lie. The final blow came on a Friday afternoon, during break time. NKEM had retreated to her favorite place, the old mango tree behind the school, where she could escape the stairs for a little while. But today, she was not alone. Ifunanya and two of her friends appeared, their footsteps deliberate, their smiles sharp. "You've been hiding," Ifunanya said, crouching beside her. "That's no fun." "Please, just leave me alone," NKEM whispered. But they did not listen. "Why should we?" Ifunanya leaned in closer. "You lied to everyone. Pretended to be perfect, while hiding the truth. We just want to make sure you never forget who you really are." Before NKEM could react, she felt it. A sudden, icy splash soaking through her uniform. Water. They had poured water on her lap. On purpose. "Now everyone will see you for what you are," Ifunanya whispered with a smirk. NKEM's breath caught in her throat, panic surging through her like a tidal wave. They wanted everyone to think she had wet herself, right there, in broad daylight. And when she looked up, she saw the other students already watching. The laughter was coming. The stares, the shame, the final crack in her world. She could not take it. Without thinking, she ran. Away from the school, away from the voices, away from everything. She ran until her legs ached, until she reached the one place where no one could follow, the riverbank just outside the village. Standing there, chest heaving, tears spilling down her cheeks, she made a decision. She could not live like this anymore. Something had to change. Something had to give. The riverbank was silent, save for the rustling of the reeds and the soft murmur of water gliding over smooth stones. NKEM stood at the edge, staring at her reflection, blurred and shifting beneath the rippling surface. The weight in her chest was unbearable, a crushing force pressing her down, suffocating her. She had nowhere left to run. No one left to turn to. She thought of the cruel laughter that followed her everywhere, of Ifunanya's wicked smile as the water soaked her uniform, of the shame that had lodged itself so deep in her soul that she could barely breathe. Her hands clenched into fists. What if she disappeared? Would they stop laughing then? Would they finally forget? A single tear slipped down her cheek, dropping into the water below. And then, NKEM. A voice cut through the silence, urgent, desperate. She turned sharply, startled to see Obinna standing at the edge of the clearing, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His eyes searched hers, wide with panic. "What are you doing here?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. What was she doing? Had she really considered? Obinna stepped closer, his expression filled with something she hadn't seen in anyone for weeks. Concern. Understanding. Come back with me, he said, his voice softer now. Please. Her legs felt weak. Without thinking, she took a step toward him, then another, until she felt his hands grasp her shoulders firmly, steadying her. And for the first time in what felt like forever, she let herself cry. That night, NKEM sat on the floor of her room, knees pulled to her chest, as her mother brushed gentle fingers through her hair. She had not said much since returning from the riverbank, but her mother had not pressed her for answers. She simply stayed. NKEM, her mother finally spoke, her voice soft yet strong. I know you are hurting. But my child, you were never meant to carry this alone. A sob caught in NKEM's throat. Then why does it feel like I have no choice? No one understands. They all laugh, they all whisper. I hear them, Mama. I hear them every day. Her mother exhaled, her hand pausing in NKEM's hair. Not everyone laughs. Not everyone whispers. And those who do, their words do not define you. NKEM shook her head. But it does define me. It's who I am. I can't change it. Her mother turned her gently so they were face to face. Listen to me, my daughter. You are more than this. More than their words, more than their cruelty. And you do not have to face this alone. NKEM's vision blurred with fresh tears. Then what do I do? How do I make it stop? Her mother's eyes shone with quiet determination. You fight. Not with anger, not with shame. You fight by refusing to hide. By owning your story. NKEM swallowed hard. Could she really do that? Could she really face the world without fear? Without shame? She did not have the answer yet. But for the first time in weeks, she felt hope. The morning after her mother's words, NKEM awoke with a new kind of heaviness in her chest, not one of shame, but of determination. The fear was still there, lurking beneath the surface, but so was something else. A choice. For so long, she had let the whispers, the laughter, and the humiliation shape her world. But if she was ever going to reclaim herself, she had to step into the storm instead of running from it. She arrived at school earlier than usual, walking through the gates with her head held high. The moment she stepped into the courtyard, conversations quieted, eyes turned toward her, and she could almost hear their thoughts. What is she doing here? Does she not feel ashamed? The weight of their judgment pressed down on her, but she kept walking, her hands curled into fists by her side. She would not run anymore. Ifunanya was the first to step forward, her smirk already forming. Back so soon, NKEM. I thought you'd be too embarrassed to ever return. Or did you come to give us more entertainment? A few giggles rippled through the crowd, but this time, NKEM did not shrink. Instead, she met Ifunanya's gaze head-on. You must really enjoy talking about me, Ifunanya. Tell me, does it make you feel important? Strong. Like your life is better because you have someone to laugh at. The smirk on Ifunanya's face faltered just slightly, but she recovered quickly. Oh, I don't need to feel important. I'm just stating facts. And the fact is, everyone knows about your little problem now. NKEM took a deep breath, steadying herself. Then, with a voice louder than she thought she possessed, she said, yes. I wet the bed. The words hung in the air, shocking even herself. The crowd stilled. Ifunanya's lips parted in disbelief, as if she had expected NKEM to cry, to run, but not to own it. I wet the bed, NKEM repeated, this time stronger. And guess what? I'm still here. It doesn't make me stupid. It doesn't make me weak. But what does make someone weak? Laughing at another person's struggle, as if your own life is perfect. Tell me, Ifunanya, what is it about me that threatens you so much? Ifunanya's face twisted with anger. That's not, but she had no response. Because there was nothing left to say. Something shifted in the air around them. The crowd, which had been ready to revel in NKEM's misery, now looked at Ifunanya instead. Not with laughter, but with curiosity. Doubt. And that was all NKEM needed. She turned, walked past them, and headed to class. That day, the whispers didn't stop completely. But they changed. And so did she. For the first time, NKEM had won. Thank you besties for watching till the end. What do you think of this story, and did it remind you of anyone? Please share in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to Folktales by IJ, so we can keep bringing you inspiring African folktale stories on Folktales by IJ.